Il tentativo, il gol! Incredibile! Il pareggio dell'Empoli! Il pareggio dell'Empoli con Giovinco!
This goal was scored by Sebastian Giovinco during his loan spell at Empoli from Juve in the last minute of a match against Roma, which brought the teams level at 2-2.
A quick and creative player on the ball, Giovinco is versatile and capable of playing in various offensive positions.
Giovinco is a product of Juventus' youth academy and went on to play 93 games for them, finding the back of the net 14 times in the process. His Juventus career was often interrupted by injuries and therefore had loan spells with Empoli and Parma.
Now, to everyone's surprise, Giovinco left this area for Major League Soccer at just 28 years of age, which tends to be a footballer's prime, and on the other hand, MLS is known to be somewhat of a retirement home for popular European footballers. This move mirrors Insignia's move to Toronto, which was actually confirmed this January.
He became the league's highest paid player, higher than the likes of Kaká, who represented Orlando at the time. Giovinco won MVP in his first season and also scored a record 68 goals in 114 appearances in his 4-year spell.
Giovinco has most recently featured for Al Hilal in the Saudi Professional League, scoring 12 times in 57 appearances. Now, following Manolo Gabbiadini's ACL injury, it has been announced that Giovinco will be joining Sampdoria immediately. This is the first time he'll be playing in Italy since 2012, and we're all very excited to see him.
So hello and welcome to episode 24 of Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake.
And Matt.
And actually, okay, I know we said that we're going to first plug everything before we introduce Grima, but I have sporadically changed my mind. So here we are with Luke Grima, our second guest ever on the podcast.
Hey, great to be here, guys.
No problem. Pleasure having you.
For those of you who don't know, Grima is an Inter fan, so obviously we're going to be picking on him a little bit here and there. We actually grew up with Grima. We went to school with him in a very posh private school.
Yes.
Also, if it feels very auspicious that you decided to invite me onto the podcast, just so happens right after the derby defeat.
Yes, if Inter had beaten Milan, you wouldn't be here, bro. So guys, very exciting to launch our new website, serieaspotlight.com. You can go check it out. We have a few articles on there. There's an about section. You can listen to our podcasts over there. There's our socials. Everything is plugged over there. I have COVID right now, so it encouraged me to work on it a little bit. So we're quite proud of how it turned out. You can go and check it out. And obviously, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, wherever.
So in case you guys realize that the sound is a bit different in this podcast, obviously, as Jake said, he has COVID, so I'm staying the fuck away from him personally. So I'm at my girlfriend's house right now, so we're recording this online, which gave us obviously the opportunity to have Luke on as well. So
Yeah.
worst things in the
I
world.
personally moved in with him.
Yes, fantastic. But well, it's hilarious because everyone was like, "Oh no, bro, it's fine. You probably don't have it anyway. I'm sure you and Jake aren't that close." Bear in mind, Jake had COVID when we were watching Inter Milan, so my tongue was basically down his throat when he scored that second goal.
It's almost as if like he made a deal with the devil.
Exactly.
I'm
Get
like, okay,
COVID
I'll give you my birthday weekend and COVID in exchange for a Milan victory.
It makes sense.
Well,
I'll take
wait.
that, to be honest.
Oh, what a
It's
game.
not that bad a trade. I would have taken it too.
Same.
Of course you would have.
I mean, anything to see Inter within touching reach. Going 7 points clear would have been depressing, to be honest.
100%. What you guys drinking before we get into the games?
So although I said I was going to get a drink, I'm still drinking my coffee, so I haven't switched yet.
Grima's a
Maybe
real
we'll make it a
exciting
little
guy,
bit
guys.
Irish. Maybe we'll make it a
Okay.
bit Irish.
Oh yeah. This is Serie A pod, bro. You have to make it Italian. Add some limoncello.
What are you
It
drinking,
tastes
Jake?
horrible.
I was meant to get a Gatorade, but I forgot. So I'm drinking absolutely nothing, and it's gonna bite me in the ass because I'm gonna end up talking like this.
I'm drinking Pinot Grigio for all the cool people out there listening. You goddamn
Oh,
right.
yes. You're a resident alcoholic over here. So I think we should start. What do you think? You ready?
I'm down.
Okay, so the first game we're going to be covering is the massive 230th edition of the Derby della Madonnina between Inter and Milan, which took place, of course, at the San Siro. We do not refer to it as the Stadio Giuseppe Meazza over here.
Absolutely
The
not.
score was Inter 1, Milan 2. Prior to this game, Inter had only lost one of the previous 11 Serie A meetings against Milan. Now, I'll quickly run you through the play-by-play, and then we can talk about it for 30, 40 minutes, however long you want. In the 38th minute, Perisic scored thanks to a lovely Çalhanoğlu assist. He was unmarked on the corner. I believe that Kalulu could have done better. He mistimed his jump and missed the ball. Calabria was nowhere in sight as well, and Perisic completely unmarked to just put it in the back of the net cleanly. In the 75th minute, Giroud scored. He started and then did the play. He started the play with a tackle on Sanchez, winning the ball and eventually converted Brahim's deflected effort. In the 77th minute, it was Giroud who scored again, an assist by Davide Calabria. It was the Olivier twist, which this episode is actually going to be titled. A beautiful goal, iconic. I think it will go down in derby history. Maybe Handanovic could have done a bit better. We'll discuss that later on. In the 94th minute, Theo was sent off for a foul on Dumfries, perhaps tactical, perhaps a rush of blood to the head. We will discuss very soon. So, Grima, first of all, your thoughts on the game.
So, whereas you said you would rather talk about this for like 30 to 40 minutes, I wouldn't mind speaking about this for just 5 minutes to try and get out of my memory. But I think from the play-by-play that you discussed, it showed the roller coaster of the game and also probably the roller coaster of my emotions, which was mirrored by the roller coaster of both your emotions. I was, after the first half, I had actually been quite happy with the performance. I think there was a night and day difference between the first and second halves, but we'll get into that a bit more later on. And
in fact, I think Inter had Inzaghi at the end of the game said that Inter dominated the match. For about 70% of the match was dominated by Inter. Do you agree with him?
I wouldn't say 70%. I would say definitely 50%. So the first half and maybe the opening minutes of the second. But I think there was a huge drain, especially in the energy and the performance of Inter as soon as the first substitutions started to be made.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was as soon as Çalhanoğlu and Kessie left the pitch, the game seemed to take a turn to Milan's favor, man.
Yeah, for sure. Kessie started the game, and you can see the idea behind it. He was meant to be man-marking Brozovic, right? But he didn't play very well at all. And you can tell, like, his head is somewhere else, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I think he's on his way out. I don't think his heart's in the club anymore. I think it's terrible memories of what Hakan did to Milan. It's terrible memories of what Gigio did to Milan. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Kessie, man. I think those three fucking musketeers are best as far from the club as possible, personally.
Is he also represented by Raiola? Is he another one of the...
No, his agent is a family friend, and apparently that's a big contributor to the payday he's trying to get. He's trying to sort him and his future generations out with some nice agent fees. Yeah, but there was a difference in professionalism. You know, you could see, for example, when Benacer came back from AFCON, within a day he was back in training. Kessie took a few days off, and he was heavily criticized for it, to be honest. Rightly so. The guy wants 8 million a year when he doesn't deserve them, to be honest with you. He doesn't deserve 8 million a year.
No, I mean he's got the quality, he's got the physicality. He's a great passer of the ball. He's really grown over the past around 4 years, I think, with Milan. But yeah, once you reach the pinnacle, it's not okay to just stop there and demand more money. You need to up your game. Your work rate needs to keep increasing. You need to play games whenever you're fit. And I don't think Kessie has been doing that for Milan in the past 6 months. Before that, he was a wet dream for anyone.
Also, I think that this game, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's taking this more advanced position. I think the idea for me, when I saw it first of all, was that he would bring that physicality to the game to make up for the lack of physicality maybe that comes out of Giroud and Ibrahimovic. Well, by physicality I mean the
athleticism,
the legs.
like
yeah.
Exactly.
And Brahim Diaz, to be honest, his direct replacement. Like, you could tell Inter are a very physical team. There's Bastoni, De Vries, Skriniar, Brozovic, even Barella to a certain extent, and Çalhanoğlu aren't pushovers. And even the wingers, Perisic and Dumfries, everyone is strong. Like, so you put Brahim in there, you risk him getting completely lost. Like, this is a strong team, man. Very physical.
It's a Conte team. It's a very, very Conte-minded team.
Yeah.
Marotta design team.
True. Magic Mike, by the way, is my first
course, yeah.
talking point over here. That's like people think like was this an Inzaghi fuck up? And I don't think it was an Inzaghi fuck up. I think that Inzaghi's tactics were good, even with Dzeko drifting wide and kind of crossing. That caught Milan's defenders off guard. They weren't expecting Dzeko to take such a wide position on the pitch. But yeah, basically, Mike kept Milan in the game.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
On multiple occasions.
I 100% agree. I mean, Giroud might have got the man of the match award for that quick fire double that broke my heart, but definitely in the first half he kept them in the game. If he hadn't made those 2 stops, the game would have been completely different. I don't think Milan would have found their way back into the match the same way they did.
For sure. Imagine Giroud scored his goals in the first half and Mike pulled off those saves in the second. Do you think Mike would have got man of the match?
Oh, maybe. Probably. I think so.
It could be, yeah.
It could be, but I don't know. It seems to be much more skewed to favor strikers and goals and assists.
It's true. It's true.
Mike,
speaking of goals, in my opinion, so the first goal by Perisic had me screaming, and not in a good way. I mean, the lack of zonal marking that happened in the box. I think there was a lack of communication, like you said, between Kalulu and Calabria over there. I mean, for the ball to sit down perfectly to the inside of Perisic's foot after a corner, that's unacceptable defending, in my opinion. And I think that is the one and only defensive mistake we saw from Kalulu and Romagnoli Kalulu and Calabria throughout the game. I'm so used to saying Romagnoli made a mistake. It's just the first one that comes to mind. But I definitely think that was the only defensive mistake Milan made throughout the game. And other than that, kept their shape really well, man. I think Milan did exactly what they had to do. So I remember you mentioning, Drake, in the beginning of the game, you were saying, as long as Milan don't concede in the first half, then we're absolutely fine. And I think the fact that we only conceded 1 goal in the first half made it fine for us as well. And then it was that kind of quick turn of events that I kind of compare it to the Liverpool game where Rebic just got those goals out of nowhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this time it was Giroud, and this time the lead lasted and they didn't come back and bite us in the ass.
It's a mentality thing, right? The whole never giving up, persevering, all those cheesy, horrible cliches that seem to ring through. About your Calabria point, I have to say, though, every time I watch Perisic against Calabria, Perisic gets the better of Calabria.
I have to agree with you there. It's the pace, man. It is literally the pace. I can't think of anything else that makes Perisic a better player than Calabria. I think, well, it's the pace and the experience, I would say. What do you guys think?
I think it's definitely, I mean, Perisic, although, how old exactly is Perisic? I mean, he's in his 30s
what,
now.
32, I think?
Something like that.
He still keeps showing his physicality. He's got a great head on his shoulders, he's able to adapt to the position. When Conte had first come over, the first thing he said was, Perisic, I have no idea how the hell I'm going to play him. We had a few friendlies where he was chucked up front. He was
as a striker.
And he said, listen, he's not positioned for this left back, and off he went to Bayern Munich, who won the Champions League, I think, that season.
He's 33 years old. They won the treble that year.
Yep.
Perisic was in that treble-winning team, man. How fucking
no wonder. Then he came back with a massive pair of balls. And
exactly.
I'm not even sure Gosens can directly replace him, considering the form he's in, Perisic, man.
No, he's just really adapted well to this position. I mean, over the course of this year. Last year, it took him a while to get used to, I felt like, as well, because he was still trying to adapt to how far he had to track back, how far he could linger forward. Now he seems to have found that perfect balance where he's seemingly both supporting the defense at times and going in and just crossing the ball in for Inter's attackers. I think he has also, in the Champions League, he was one of the highest crossers, one of the top 5 highest crossers in the CL, in the group stage.
Wow.
And I mean, you can still see his input now. I also can say that one of the main reasons he's doing so well is because he's got great communication with Bastoni. They just seem to know
that's true.
Who is going to overlap, who's going to move along the channel. I mean, Perisic sometimes cuts in and Bastoni will go wide to produce the crosses.
That's true.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see, and it happens on the other side with Skriniar too quite often.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about the battle on the right-hand side between Perisic and Calabria, but let's shift our focus a bit to the other side of the pitch because there was another great battle over there. There was Theo Hernandez against Dumfries. That is as entertaining as it gets, and it shadows last year's competition between Hernandez and Hakimi, which was very exciting as well. And I think Hakimi got the better of Hernandez that time round for the majority of last season. But I think Hernandez takes the cake in this one. I think Hernandez did just a fantastic job of pissing Dumfries off throughout the game. Dumfries just wasn't focused towards the end of it. You know, had he not had that physicality, that strength, and that pace, Theo was all over in his head. You know what I mean?
It's also the difference in quality between, him and Hakimi, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greem, how do you feel about Theo Hernandez?
Do you mean, do I feel like he should have got sent off?
No. How do you feel about him as a player? Is he one of those Milan players that you detest?
I both detest, but I respect in a way. I mean, for me, he's still one of the greatest left backs. I mean, I would love to have him playing with Inter. But, we got Gosens, who arguably probably was the second best wing back.
Yeah, if not the best, he gives him a run for his money, definitely. But it has to be said that Theo Hernandez is the master of rattling players and fans as well. He gets the ball in the back. He does that weird turning thing where he pretends to go right and he just scoops left and leaves his man like in the box dangerously. Like
he did it in the last fucking couple of minutes of the game, man. Before he got sent off, I was fucking screaming like, "Stop doing that!"
Does that shit. And
Jesus.
I always end up first. I'm screaming, "What the fuck are you doing?" Then I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Keep going,
you
man,
know,
keep going.
exactly. Then he dribbles 3 players. He falls over easily, wins a foul. You know, and 11 players are in the referee's face screaming at him just out of sheer frustration. You know,
and that
I
happened
love
to
it, man.
Dumfries many times.
Exactly.
I mean, there was a number of challenges or knocks. Some might have or should have been a foul, and some were just physical. But Dumfries, like Matt was saying, was up in the linesman and the referee's face.
Exactly. Bro, I celebrate. Never have I ever celebrated my own player's red card the way I celebrated Theo Hernandez's. I lost my shit. It's like we scored a goal, in my opinion, man. The way he just fucking, cunted him from behind after he took the ball off him.
Do you
It's like,
think
what
it
do you think
was
you're
a
gonna scream?
tactical foul?
Yes, I think so. I think it was.
I'm not
I
sure.
Well,
it could have been something was said. I mean, now because they're actual fans in the stadium, it's much more difficult to pick up on what the players are saying between them.
I mean, there must have been it must have been like hints of shithousery as well. He's quite a shithouse, Theo Hernandez. But I think the fact that he gave the ball away and had Dumfries whoop the ball in and like I don't know, Zeko got to the end of it would have been Hernandez's fault. So he was like, no, fuck you. Like I'm not gonna give you that leverage. Like so he counted him and he got sent off. And to be honest, we play Sampdoria next, and I'm not too worried about that touch wood. So
well, they have just spanked Sassuolo 4-0, which we'll get to eventually. But eventually, after Theo's red card, Inter really wanted to take advantage of that. And at the end, Handanovic went up, who seems to be 7 feet tall, by the way. And he even won the header. He got that looping header over the top. If someone had fucking followed up on that would have been the equalizer at the end there. I was terrified.
Speaking of
redeemed
Handanovic,
himself, definitely.
No, but I really couldn't blame Handanovic for the second goal, and I'll tell you why. Now,
It was soft.
as soon as I saw the goal go in, I'm like, come on, bro, you know what I mean? You're an experienced goalkeeper, you should be saving that. But bros, Giroud turned and shot in a split second. He would have been as shocked as every single one of us to see the 35-year-old pull that off. So there was an element of, you need to give him the benefit of the doubt in the sense that, you know, his view was impeded. I think De Vrij was blocking him and De Vrij was defending at that point. So he'd be banking on De Vrij making the block over there. And Giroud managed to turn and get the shot away in the space of a split second, and he caught Handanovic by surprise. So for a keeper of his age to get down quickly, it was a tough task, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't give Handanovic 100% the fault.
You wouldn't give him the fault. It's probably... there's an element of the perspective in that Manyan was just having an amazing game, and when it came to the other side, Handanovic couldn't pull off a similar save that
Yeah.
maybe
That's true.
Manyan would have reached. But as well, like Matt is saying, the blame doesn't fall directly on Handanovic for the second goal. In my opinion, De Vrij was at fault as well, because he should have known what Giroud was trying to do. I mean,
Of course.
Get on
at
his left foot, like, you know.
at that age, Giroud's not going to pull off any crazy, I don't know, Neymar inspired tricks.
It's all he does. He turns and he shoots, or he lays it off. You know, you have to
Yeah, it was.
expect him to do that, both on Handanovic's end and both on De Vries' end.
So I think it was a lack of concentration as well from him.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he should have just moved forward, either try to battle him physically or try to intercept the ball before it even arrived in his feet, or pushed him off his left foot.
Yeah. Definitely.
Clearly it didn't happen though, so
No, not at all, not at all. But so Inter are now up to 2 losses in the league. The first
Yeah.
loss, obviously, being that
Lazio,
freak
right?
show of a match against Lazio, Simone Inzaghi's return, Correa's return. There was all that shit. So to be honest, I wouldn't cut Inter too much slack about losing that one. It's one of those weird ones throughout the season. And now Milan join that list of teams that beat Inter this year. Will there be any other defeats for Inter? Who do you think, do you think Inter will recover from this? I know they're playing Napoli now, so that's a big test for them.
What do you
will
think? You're
happen?
worried about that, Green?
in fact, I was speaking offline, with Jake about this yesterday, when we had originally planned to record this episode. I was actually completely terrified after we lost the derby. Before the derby, a lot of us were saying, Inzaghi came in, we had just sold Lukaku and Hakimi. The team looked completely different. Are we still going to be able to compete at the highest level? And we got out of the group stage, which is something that we haven't been able to do for the last few years we've been in CL, and beaten Shakhtar. We were top of the league, and we were progressing in the Coppa Italia. And I just noticed that after the derby defeat, in the next three games, all this could have self-destructed, because if we potentially lost to Roma yesterday, lost to Napoli, and we're going to get a spanking against Liverpool, I feel at least, the season would have just self-destructed. Luckily, we managed to play well and continue to compete in the Coppa Italia.
Luckily, Green, that fucking weird game against Spezia happened. That's what's lucky for Inter.
That
The only
is
thing
true.
that's stopping
That's true.
Milan from catching Inter within the next, unless obviously Inter keep on winning and they recover well. But to put into perspective just how much of an impact the referee's decision has, Milan would have been ahead of Inter by 2 points, obviously with Inter having that game in hand. So let's say Inter wins that game, Inter would be 1 point ahead, which is
It's
a
against
massive
Bologna.
fucking difference. Yeah,
Yep.
Fuck Bologna.
Yeah, I don't see them doing anything that game at all. That's like a standard 2-0, 3-0 win for Inter.
But you never know. Arnautovic could have just like a stormer.
Could be.
Didn't they beat? What was it? Did they beat Lazio 3-0 this season?
They
Bologna?
did, but that was like during a weird, chaotic bunch of fixtures for Lazio. They played like I can't remember, like 3 times in 1 week or something, and barely had any rest days. Plus, COVID was weird.
We were on
at
the
that
wrong
time.
side of Bologna that time. We were in Sassuolo Stadium watching them play Inter and losing. We could have been in Bologna Stadium with that lovely fucking like weird church they have in the middle of
The
the stadium.
tower. Yeah,
Watching them kick Lazio's ass. Well,
that would have been
fun.
nice. That would have been really fun. So we spoke about the substitutions. I have to praise Pioli for a second because I don't feel like we did it enough. His substitutions were adventurous, they were brave, and they worked. He brought on Messias and he brought on Brahim for Salamakers and Kessie. Now, Salamakers didn't have a great game. Kessie didn't have a great game either. I was worried that's simply because of who Kessie is, he'd just keep him on. But he didn't do that. He took him out pretty early and he brought on Brahim Diaz as well. Now that changed the game for Milan completely. Plus, on the other end, Inzaghi seemed to fuck the game up by taking out Çalhanoğlu. He said at the end of the game it was because he was on a yellow card. You bring on Vidal because Hakan's on a yellow card. Vidal.
No, but I get
He's
it.
more likely to get sent off with nothing.
But
Exactly.
I get that. But towards the end of the game, where minds and legs are tired, you take out Çalhanoğlu for Vidal. You bring on that crusher if you're ahead. And I mean, Vidal can get those last second tackles in as well, obviously alongside Brozovic. they will be the more conservative midfielders, and then you have Barella being a bit more adventurous over there. So I don't think that was the bad move. I think the lack of impact that maybe Vidal had on the match, maybe he didn't assert that aggression instantly off the get-go like he normally would. But I think more than that, more than Inter taking a step down, I think Milan just took a massive step up. Once Brahim came on, Brahim was loving, sexy, magic when he came on, man. He was insane. And I'm so glad that Pioli didn't just drop Kessie to a defensive midfield role and take out Benacer, for example, but rather swapping him directly because Benacer and Tonali were playing the ball around beautifully, man.
Wow,
They
what
were
a
so
display
good.
from both of them, man.
Literally, which
Who
is
the
good
fuck
because
is
I
Frank
mean, you
Kessie?
look, bro, you look at these two, you know what I mean, and towards the beginning of the season, we doubted whether either of these would start alongside Kessie. A lot of people were saying that Bakayoko is going to fit right back in, stuff like that, and Tonali and Benacer will have to fight for their place. But these guys are ridiculous, and I think I'm going to put some special emphasis on Tonali because just for the full season, he's been insane. I think he's been one of the best players in the league this season,
He
one of the
has.
best midfielders for sure.
He has. Inter chose not to take him, man.
Exactly, in favor of Vidal.
Exactly.
yeah.
I'm so happy with him, man. He's so fucking good.
I mean, Tonali this season just took a step up and is really like blended in to the Milan team, and Brahim has just been on another level. Is Brahim actually fully owned by Milan, or is he still on loan with
So there's
The
a
last year
loan
of
with
his
an
loan.
obligation, but Real Madrid have a callback clause if they want to, and I think it's only valid for the first year. I think. Don't quote me on this, but
I thought it was a 2-year loan,
it is a
and
2-year loan. They have the chance to bring him back, definitely Real Madrid, but it's up to them. Like, to be honest,
something
at this
similar
rate,
to Morata, yeah?
I
With
think so.
Juventus,
exactly, very
Um,
similar.
In reality, I don't think they'll call him back just yet. I think he started off really well, Brahim, but then he kind of dipped to the point that Real Madrid might be looking elsewhere, which is great for Milan because I really like Brahim.
Bro,
I hope Milan keep him.
Real Madrid rate Brahim. They rate him quite highly, and the fact that he was loaned out and he had a successful 2 years at Milan might make them want him back, bro. I'm quite concerned about that as a Milan fan. But and you know how Real Madrid are. They'd want to take him back and then just flip him and make some money off him. You know what I mean? Or
True,
bench
like
him for a
Barca had done
season.
with Deulofeu.
Exactly. Ruin him a little bit for a season and then sell him for 5 million to Atletico. That's what fucking Real do, man. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens with Brahim.
Yeah, fuck that. I hope not.
Oof.
Grima, could Inter have used Sensi, man?
After watching him play against Sassuolo, I'd say definitely. I mean, I actually thought about this. I thought that it would have been a mistake to loan him out when he scored in the Coppa Italia for us. As soon as he came on and he had that impact and he was showing that he might have signs of coming back, there was definitely the argument that maybe he shouldn't go to Sampdoria. But at the same time, every time he's shown signs of coming back, his legs just seem to give way and he's out for another few months.
He's made of glass.
It's not worth keeping Sensi, man, to be honest.
But definitely, if he came on in form, he would have been the perfect replacement for Hakan, because in my opinion, that's what we lacked. Although you can argue that he put on Vidal to try and drop back. He wanted to cover Hakan because he had a yellow card, which seems to be the norm in the Serie A.
Yeah, he always makes 5 subs regardless of the game.
Yeah, but it's also very automatic. It's whoever gets a yellow card in the midfield seems to go off for Vidal. But also, in my opinion, it was a bit of a mistake or a bit of a misreading of the game, in that Milan were putting on Brahim Diaz, and maybe he wanted to have someone who's going to play a bit more defensively and cut out his creativity. But we also flipped the game onto ourselves. Like, now we were waiting for Milan to advance and attack rather than we were trying to keep Milan on the back foot, which I feel that having Hakan there, the threat that he would have had, by being able to play the ball into certain positions, maybe Milan would have been more wary about giving away set pieces, because that's one of the biggest areas that we've improved on ever since he's joined. We seem to have actual set piece presence.
Which is weird because Milan never Milan had always struggled from set pieces, particularly corners, and apparently since Çalhanoğlu has joined Inter, all you've done is score corners.
It could be. It
I
could be.
remember Hakan hadn't scored that. Bro, did he even score a single free kick
Of
for
course, yes.
Milan?
No, he did. He scored.
How many though? Like a very countable
I
amount.
recall 2.
In like 4 seasons, how
Exactly.
I mean, it could be
Specialist.
combined as well with Inter having very, tall players, good with their head.
Yeah.
I mean, Inter were scoring corners against Milan in past derbies as well. If you want to
Exactly. I mean, the 3
refer back to
centre
De
backs.
Vrij.
Yeah, the 3 centre backs alongside Dzeko, man, that's enough of an aerial threat, to be honest. But it was really good seeing those 3 centre backs of Inter being somewhat exposed. Like seeing De Vrij beaten 1v1 to Giroud was something that brought me so much joy, man.
Yeah.
And just seeing them like yell at each other and disappointed in each other.
Yeah.
It's not something we normally see. with them.
Particularly because De Vrij is like a perfectionist. No, I read something recently that he employs a Dutch company to keep stats about his performances and analytics,
Yes,
and he
yeah.
studies his performances because he's a perfectionist and he wants to continue improving. Like he's probably
That's so
studying
his
that Giroud
excuse.
spin as we speak.
Bro,
I
that's
should
an
have studied it
excuse.
before.
Exactly.
That's
I
an
mean-
excuse. He owns a betting company in Malta. I can guarantee you that.
I just
No,
want-
but De Vrij this season has fallen off a bit, in my opinion. Not to say that he's bad or in any sense of the word, but his performances have dropped off from the highs we've seen in other seasons, where
That's true.
Bastoni has just I think become one of our best defenders, best prospects in general.
He twisted his ankle yesterday.
Yeah, that's very worrying. He's also sent off for 2 games, which is being appealed.
And Inzaghi as well, I believe. I think Inzaghi has a 1-match ban.
Yeah,
I think he's on.
Inzaghi, yeah, one. I think it's 1 match, and
And
Lautaro. fine.
Lautaro got like fined 10k, no, or
like
something.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he fucking.
You think he spat?
at
Did you
Theo.
see it? I kind of. At first, I was
I-
like, "Nah, he didn't
if
spit." Then I saw one more clip, and like, if you look at the
if I'm
glass, you
being
can actually see
honest-
something hitting it. It looks like you spat. I have to
I don't know. I didn't have that clear of a look at it, to be honest. Like to me, it makes zero difference whether he spat or not. Like we won the game, and that's all that matters. I did see his head move in a motion that shows I could want to get force behind something. So in this case, it would be his weird spit. But at the same time, I saw nothing leave his mouth. So I don't know. I don't want to be out here analyzing spit rather than football.
Yeah.
But that's what I saw.
I mean, maybe he listens to the podcast. It is like, it will fuck with their minds. I'll make the motion, but not spit, just so they can debate.
Now next week, he'll spit without the motion.
Exactly.
He just drop one like.
Can we just say we spent so many years watching Milan Inter, which would be like a fight for like 5th place, a fight for like 6th place, 4th place at most. Those shitty ones with like Nagatomo and Biabiani and fucking all these players like Jeremy Menez,
Menez.
exactly, and all these people. This is the Derby della Madonnina, man. These guys
Fucking
hate each other. It's first against second. It's a title fight. And you can tell these players don't like each other, man. It's not just an act. Like, they hate each other.
None of that Chiellini bullshit, bro. None of that. Look, we're friendly. We're exchanging.
Live in the moment, live, love, love.
Like,
No,
shut
I mean,
the
this
fuck
is-
up, Squidward. You know what I mean? This is it. We fucking hate each other. Sure, fucking shake each other's hands after the game and all that. But during the game, that's what I want, bro. I want tackles flying in. I want arguments.
Pushing,
This
provoking.
heated Derby della Madonnina, man. It was insane.
I mean, these players, they're actually in a title race. They actually feel like they have a bit more pride than some of the other players we've had over the years.
Exactly.
True.
Exactly.
I mean, I would say it's been building up to this. There was the Ibrahimovic-Lukaku incident as well
Yeah,
last
exactly.
season, and definitely if the transfer policies at both clubs continue to go the way they're going, I think we'll continue to see games like this for hopefully many seasons.
Let's hope so, man.
And the relegation
Grima.
battle for Juve. if
Exactly.
we're lucky.
Come on. One more thing.
Can I
want-
ask you
Please.
what? Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask if you guys saw the clip of that guy wearing a jumper when Giroud scored.
Yeah.
So
With
first,
the Napoli jumper.
exactly. No, he was wearing a normal jumper. Then he took it off when Giroud scored the winner, and he was wearing a Napoli kit underneath, and he was jumping with the
fucking
Milan
funny.
fans and celebrating with them because it's a
That's
three-horse
insane.
race. You know, Napoli are still in it, as we mentioned before.
That was the question I was about to ask Grima. Like, who's the better team, bro? Is it Milan or Napoli, in your opinion?
I think Milan at full strength are still better than Napoli at the moment because Napoli have
Fucking right
shown
they
that
are,
even
bro.
when they're playing, their preferred 11, they could still have shockers of games. I mean, Milan lost to Spezia, but
That wasn't a shocker of a game, though.
So did
no,
Napoli, no? Napoli lost to Spezia as well.
They did. They did.
they did. Napoli. I mean,
Ha!
Thiago Motta
There you
is
go.
on a streak at the moment.
He
He
Well,
is.
is, unfortunately.
Not anymore,
not
but
anymore,
yeah.
but he's still undefeated. I'd say.
Exactly. The
That's
manager of the month went to Salernitana away and played for a draw. But anyway, we'll talk about that later.
exactly. Mhm.
Anything else
I
you want to
think
mention
we've
about the
covered.
game?
I think we've covered the derby person. I don't know, Green. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nothing else. I think we've covered most of the main
Mhm.
talking points.
Cool.
I just want to say that it still feels like a weird dream. What a magical night. Green, I know it wasn't like that for you, but you've had your fun over the past few years. Let us enjoy this one. It was
Yeah,
one of my favorite derbies in history. I think the fact that
for sure.
Giroud scored 2 goals where he's been somewhat struggling and you wanted him out, as in not out of the squad, but you wanted Lazetic to come on in
I
the
was
60th minute.
screaming for Lazetic to come on. I was like, Giroud can't get involved this game. It's not his fault, but the ball wasn't getting to him. I was like, we need
No, it's
someone more
true.
mobile. Just bring on that Lazetic guy. Let's see what he's all
And it
about.
got
And
to
then he
him
scored.
twice, dude.
I have never been happier to look like an idiot.
I mean,
Literally.
we should propose you as like the director of football or something.
For sure. That guy with the
Absolutely.
podcast who has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Giroud, by the way, 7 goals in 8 starts. All his goals came at San Siro. Even the away goals came at San Siro.
Oh my god, that's hilarious, man. That's hilarious.
It's weird because Giroud only scores at home and Zlatan only scores away.
I mean, he's
true.
just very efficient.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen that with Chelsea as well, and with back in the day when he was with Arsenal, he'd come on and and even with France, even when he was not playing with Chelsea and they'd put him on in France and France need to get a goal, he just pops on and managed to get one in the back of the net.
Exactly. I'm sure Zlatan has some weird saying as well as to why he only scores away from home. Like, lions do not eat in their own nest.
Their own nest.
This is some weird shit, like.
All right, bro.
Shall we
Juve?
move on? Shall we?
Let's go.
Yeah.
So, where are they placed at the moment, Inter and Milan?
Oh, yes. Of course, Inter are first 1 point ahead of Milan as it stands, with a game in hand, of course, against Bologna.
Fantastic. So the next game we're going to be covering is Juve 2, Hellas Verona 0. So coming into this game, Juve were coming off a 0-0 draw to Milan. But since then, as we all know, they've had an incredibly busy mercato, signing the league's top scorer in Vlahovic and the Swiss sensation Dennis Zakaria. And they both started the match, which was very interesting to see. Hellas Verona, on the other hand, were coming off 2 impressive victories in succession against Sassuolo and Bologna, but they missed Simeone and Caprari in this game, which obviously was always going to impact the team ever so slightly. Verona were actually unbeaten against Juventus in their last 4 matches, where they won twice and only drew twice. Obviously, we all remember the reverse fixture where Cholito scored that insane goal where they won, I think it was 2-1, I don't remember. Only Samp have a better record than this, where they went unbeaten against Juve in 5 matches, and this was around the 2013 season. Verona had the opportunity to equal that, but they obviously didn't manage. So I'll take you through the play-by-play. In the 13th minute, Vlahovic chipped the keeper after a lovely ball flicked through by Dybala. The pair were already really linking up well at this point, Dybala and Vlahovic. One thing people may not have realised about this goal is that Vlahovic actually started this attack by winning the ball in the air against Gunter after a long ball by Szczesny. And this physicality is really something that Juve lacked with not having that number 9. They only kind of got it when Moise Keane was in the team. That's when they were starting with Morata and Dybala alongside each other. They didn't have that guy to kind of, that Zlatan or that Giroud, to kind of flick the ball on after the keeper pings it forward. Vlahovic became that guy. He started the attack. Dybala flicked the ball through. Vlahovic chipped the keeper in superb fashion. in the 61st minute, like as if unbelievable, Zakaria scored as well. So the two debutants both scored this whole magical fucking bullshit. He finished cleanly after some superb work by Morata. Morata was insane. He outmuscled Ceccherini in the situation. He carried the ball forward, and then the ball that he gave to split the defense in half. Zakaria was there. He had a lot of time, and to me, it's more impressive when a striker or a forward, whatever, finishes a chance when he has a lot of time, because he has a lot of time to think about it. He's got three options, but he just chose the one, he stuck to it, he put the ball in the back of the net, and debut goal and a 2-0 victory for Juve that put them in the Champions League spot, obviously after Atalanta slipped up, which we'll be discussing later. Now, the obvious talking points, guys, in this game are Vlahovic and Zakaria. But aside from them individually, I really want to discuss, because more often than not, we've seen managers taking their time before deploying new players. But Max slotted these two players into the starting 11 right away, man, like a week after they signed. Like, big balls from Max to pull that off, and it worked out. What do you guys think about it?
So I think Vlahovic already has like league experience, and like when you sign a player for 80 million euros, you have to play him immediately. So I think that's and plus that's a position that they've been desperate to improve, right? They needed a striker. Same can be said about the midfield, you know. I feel like he had no choice but to do that. I feel like he would have probably preferred to ease them in, but couldn't. He didn't have the facilities for
Yeah,
that. What do you think, Green?
big man.
Oh no, I think the same as Jake. That Vlahovic, it was it's quite a plug and play situation, in that he essentially put him in the very similar conditions that he was playing in Fiorentina. I mean, he was desperate to go to Juve, clearly, because it wasn't the first club that approached him or approached to sign him. He joined on his birthday, so he was definitely fired up. So
He
there was
joined on his
also that
birthday.
aspect. Yeah, he joined
Yes.
Juve on his birthday.
I had no idea.
Turned 22, joined
Wow.
the club, and scored the debut goal, and
Nice.
Insane, man.
leading the Serie A scoring charts.
Recently, I read something that Vlahovic, they asked him, what would you be if you weren't a football player? You know, Crouch would say a virgin. Vlahovic
Yeah.
said, a doctor, man. It's like
Yeah,
a-
bro, he was studying medicine, and apparently he's a genius. Like, he could have graduated, well, not easily, obviously, but like he could have been making hundreds of thousands as a doctor. You know what I mean?
Instead, he's making millions as a football player. He made the right choice.
Yeah,
Man.
we made that joke because the commentator said he could have been a surgeon, but decided to go for the football route. Needless to say, he made the right decision, and we're like, really, bro? Don't we need more healthcare workers? You know what I mean? Like, this guy's out here making millions for kicking a ball. We need healthcare workers. But fuck it. I think personally that aside from these two guys, well, bringing these two guys in and having, especially Vlahovic as that number 9, Juve looked really different. They looked like they had this 4-3-3 that was kind of swapping to a 4-3-2-1 at times, to a 4-3-1-2. It was really nice, and one thing I really enjoyed was seeing Morata kind of play a bit more out wide, because his
Exactly.
pace and his strength really came off, and he didn't get many scenarios where he was put on the spot in front of goal where he tends to struggle, but rather we saw him use his physical abilities out wide. How much better is Morata in that position, guys?
100%. I agree. I mean, I think one of the main inclusions, or one of the main benefits that Vlahovic brings, besides some others that we'll mention later on, is that the formation completely changed, and they have players like not only Morata. I'd pinpoint Dybala especially, because in my opinion, we might be looking at Vlahovic. Is the hot new signing, the marquee signing for Juve, but
You think he's hot, man?
a little bit. Uh, No, but for me, Dybala was definitely the man of the match in this game. He came on.
It was
And
great, man.
the fact that he was given more freedom to roam behind the striker, as well as Morata. They're able to drop a bit deeper, play those passes, and eventually managed to get the pass off to Vlahovic, who finished and got them the goal. I think that was one of the main benefits that Vlahovic brings, as well as the
For
fact that
sure.
Juve were definitely, one of the main issues they had was that they were relying on Morata, and Dybala to be their main scoring output.
When they've never
And
been the type, right, to score 20 goals a
exactly.
season. The last season Dybala had where he scored 20 goals was in 2017, and since then he's pretty much had Suso numbers, to be honest. So he kind of performs for like half a season.
Yeah.
Dybala was visibly frustrated to be subbed out in the 75th minute. Quite a lot of drama surrounding that guy right now. Do you think he'll renew? What's going on?
Well,
So
I'm not.
I don't know. Sorry, I
Sorry,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Green.
Go ahead, dude.
All right, sure. I don't know enough about the situation. I know I think he's got around 6 months left on his contract and he's yet to renew, right?
Something like that, yeah.
I really see. I think Dybala's in love with the club. I think he's made it abundantly clear that he's looking to kind of be the next Del Piero. He wants to be the next big thing at Juve. I don't think Dybala's looking for a way out. And I also think that Max rates him really highly. I think one of the first points we made when Allegri came back as Juve's manager was that he's going to bring the best out of Dybala. So to be honest, I see him renewing. I see him staying on. Now, probably there are some WhatsApp texts that will show something different going on behind the scenes. But personally, the kind of inkling I get is that he's going to stay on and he'll become a legend at the club.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think that at the end of the day, he's going to stay on, and I mean, all you have to do is try put yourself in his shoes and try to understand his position. It's maybe as a Juve fan, it's much more frustrating not knowing whether he's going to stay or not. Similar to the situations we have with Kessie and with Perisic and Brozovic.
It's a trend nowadays.
But for him, you can definitely understand his perspective. From one end, he might say he loves the club, but maybe he's not as interested in staying if they don't make the Champions League. Maybe he wasn't interested in the direction the club was taking in the first half of the season, and he wanted to wait till the end to know what all his options were. I mean, definitely now, if he had to sign before the transfer window and after, it's a completely different Juve team, completely different
Yeah.
strategy, completely different goals. Whereas before, I think they were still saying, getting Champions League is still our priority. Now they'd be, underperforming if they don't get
Exactly.
Yeah,
Champions League
that's
or
true.
don't
That's true.
even try to get as many points as possible to potentially have a little bit of a title challenge at the end. Although I
Well,
think,
they're there now, man. They're fucking there. They're 2 points ahead of Atalanta, but
yeah,
obviously Atalanta have that game in hand. But they looked fucking good, man. They looked really good. And obviously, as we mentioned, Vlahovic is the best striker in the league, arguably, alongside Immobile. He brought the best out of Dybala. He brought the best out of Morata. He changed the Juve team just in one game. But I also really want to highlight Zakaria, man. Zakaria was fucking insane. He had 4 interceptions, and I remember really noticing he's so good at reading the game. He almost always knows what his opponent is gonna do instantly, and he's got the mental ability. He's got the strength. He's got the passing. He's a complete midfielder in my opinion. Now he only played 80 minutes. In this 80 minutes, like I said, he had 4 interceptions. He had an 86% pass success rate, and he even got a goal. Man, like the goal was just the cherry on top of the cake because he would have had a great performance without it.
For sure. For
He
sure.
got subbed out after 80 minutes because he took a blow to his lower back, but apparently he'll be back for the Sassuolo game today. Is today Thursday? No,
No,
tomorrow.
tomorrow, yeah.
He'll be back for the game on Thursday. And one thing I really like to see is obviously McKennie was benched and Zakaria played instead of him. And when Zakaria scored, did you see McKennie's reaction?
He looked like a schoolgirl, man.
Exactly. Is he really like? I wouldn't be happy for him, but if I were McKennie and Zakaria started instead of me and he got a goal, like okay, I'd be like, I don't know, maybe 40% happy for him, but then 60% is gonna say, all right, man, he's gonna take my place in the team, and I'm gonna end up being on the bench or being sold away. Would you be happy for him if you were McKennie?
I mean, I would think yes. I hope so. I hope I'm a good person, essentially. But nowadays there are so many fixtures and everything is so tightly packed that they're both going to get their opportunities. There's the Coppa Italia, the Champions League, the league itself. Plus, not to mention that it doesn't necessarily need to be Zakaria or McKennie who plays. They could both play. There's Rabiot as well who can be replaced by one of them.
That's true.
So at the end of the day, yes, I don't see why he shouldn't be happy for him.
and I mean, I'm sure they speak, in the club, and Allegri is very, very vocal about how he sees them fitting in the club. I mean, at the end of the day, they're playing for Juventus, whose ambitions aren't to, just play in the league. They want to compete in the league. They want to compete in the Coppa Italia. They want to compete in the Champions League. So, we're speaking about 45 plus games a season minimum.
Exactly.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, at the end of the day, some good squad rotation, as you said. So we could see Zakaria, could be seeing McKennie, who have both proved to be kind of those goal-scoring midfielders.
I want to point
so-
out before we move on about Vlahovic. He had a very good performance and he was working tirelessly to begin with, but I do feel like he exhausted himself pretty early on, and towards the later part of the game struggled to involve himself simply because of fatigue. At points there were balls coming towards him and he didn't seem like sharp enough to get to them. Of course, that'll fade as he gets used to the team, as he gets used to the pressure, he gets used to managing his energy as well a little bit. He was very eager, and I don't blame him. And what a start for him! What a start! As a striker, you want to score as soon as possible. We saw it, for example, the Fiorentina game with Cabral. He was dying for a goal. Vlahovic got it, and he can relax now. He has two more games where he has no pressure on him.
That's true. I saw the commentator said that apparently Allegri was keeping a close eye on the Vlahovic's fitness throughout the game. Apparently, that's the only main concern he has about Vlahovic. He thinks he's a complete striker, obviously, but he is slightly concerned about his fitness. So he's going to be keeping an eye out on that. But I think, like you said, that over eagerness would cause him to sprint on a couple of occasions where maybe he should take it a bit easy. And just over involve himself when in reality he'd be doing a fine job as is. But I think it was a perfect start for Vlahovic. But like you said, he did kind of dip in those last 20 minutes.
Exactly. And I mean, Zakaria on the other end must be, thanking his lucky stars after these last few games that he chose to go to Juve and not Manchester United, as was
exactly
rumored.
For sure.
I'm gonna shift my focus a bit to Hellas Verona just for a second, just go over them slightly. So in my opinion, Hellas didn't have a bad game, but they simply got outplayed. Juve were faster, stronger, more clinical. Overall, just much the better side. They managed to get 13 shots away, Hellas. They're very disappointing attempts, you know what I mean? They were dispossessed a total of 20 times as well. Barak was dispossessed 6 of those 20 times, so he was
quite bad this game, man. And typically,
a bit
I was
disappointing.
expecting more from him. And to be honest, it was just, you look at their stats, these guys, Lasagna lost the ball 3 times, Tameze 3 times, Barak 6 times, Lazovic lost the ball as well, Veloso 3 times, De Pauli twice.
Veloso quite underperformed, I think.
Yeah, many of these guys, and particularly, exactly, Veloso and Barak, I would say.
Now, as soon as I heard that Caprari was unavailable, I made the assumption that Nikola Kalinic was going to fit in instead of him. Well, not Caprari, but rather Simeone, my apologies. But it was Kevin Lasagna who started the match as a striker. Now, Kalinic came on at the 71st minute to replace Barak and had 0 impact. But I was surprised to hear that he was released off his contract moments after the match. What the fuck happened there? He's no longer a Verona player.
I don't know, man. He has problems when it comes to attitude, that guy. You don't remember during the World Cup? Croatia sent him home. He was the only player that got sent home that World Cup. Yeah.
That's a fucking weird one, man, because he's obviously clearly their second best striker. You're not gonna.
He's good, and he was having a good season. He was having a pretty good season.
Yes. I have him. I know firsthand because I have him on Fanta, and I remember he scored a brace in one of the games just before Simeone broke out. But he also picked up a goal in the last match before this game. He's not bad. He's a good guy to kind of plug in as a replacement, but to release him off his contract, that's a fucking weird one. I have no idea what happened there, man.
I don't know. It gives me a lot of, I don't know if you guys remember, but Osvaldo vibes.
Oh yes.
Oh my
the
God,
guy
Osvaldo,
who left football
for
music.
With less style, dude. It's like Osvaldo with less style.
Oh my God, Osvaldo, what a memory, man.
Osvaldo said that he loves barbecue too much to be a professional football player.
Of all things to love in the world. Imagine being passionate about barbecue.
Oh, South Americans, man. Barbecue is massive in South America, particularly
but imagine
in Brazil
being
and
a
Argentina.
professional footballer, just being in the Serie A and clubs want you and you're scoring crazy goals. I remember he had this half volley or it was a bicycle.
Bro, he had a couple of overhead kicks, Osvaldo. I remember that.
It's just like, all these clubs want you. They want to pay you a lot of money, and you're just there like, I'm gonna savor this moment. I'm just gonna. I want to start playing music, or.
Yeah, I just want to play the guitar and eat ribs, man.
Exactly.
I mean, fair play to him, dude.
Fuck, that's what we do, man.
This guy should go to Riviera every now and then. Just take a barbecue, play some guitar. He'll fit right in.
Riviera
But just to
Martinique.
move on, Juve are now fourth. They're 2 points ahead of Atalanta, who have a game in hand, and they play them this weekend. What a time to have COVID! Hellas are in ninth. On the other hand, they're on 33 points, kind of fighting their way to. I think Hellas's main goal would be not to drop back behind 10th. I think 10th upwards is where Hellas will be aiming for. I think that would be their main goal for this season. I don't think Europe would be a realistic goal.
I think they'll try.
They'll definitely try. They don't have a loser mentality like I do. But is it worth trying?
No, I mean, they're 6 points off the nearest European space. I mean, it's going to be hotly contested between, Roma, Lazio, Atalanta now dropped out of the Champions League spots, and there's also Fiorentina, who also have game in hand. So
Can we just say, man, how tight and nice it is in Italy? We have a 3-horse race at the top. The European spots
Sure
are
it
all
is, too.
contested. At the bottom,
Beautiful.
the relegation battle is so interesting as well. Salernitana basically changing their entire team halfway through the season. While in the Premier League, horrible things are happening, man.
we can clip this. We can just have Jake just saying, how nice and tight it is. And load it to. You can plug in your Instagram and TikTok here.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Zuma
it's
is playing
hilarious.
fucking cats across his living room. Fucking.
It's hilarious when you compare. So last place in the Premier League, there's Newcastle, and in last place in Serie A, there's Salernitana. Just compare their budgets.
Newcastle actually dropped to last. I thought they beat Everton in their last game.
Newcastle were last a couple of weeks ago. Last I checked, I can check.
And then they bought a new team.
Same as Salernitana, man. No, Burnley are lost in the Premier League. Hello and welcome to Premier League Spotlight.
Where are Newcastle though?
Newcastle.
They were in the in a relegation battle. I mean, they were like 18th or something like that.
17th right now. They're just outside of it. Yeah. But anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, we shall.
So let's hop onto a gondola and go all the way to Venice for Venezia 0, Napoli 2. This is 4 wins in a row for Napoli, and this is Napoli's first win in Venice since 1947. They ended a 75-year drought. How many times did they play them since then? Not many times at all, man.
Probably twice. I don't know.
I think Venezia were last in the Serie A. Must have been in the late 90s. I remember them definitely being there.
Mm-hmm.
You can check out an article on our website about Venezia by our new writer Mitul. A very brilliant article.
It's insane. An amazing article. I didn't know 10% of what was on this article. It's beautifully written. Go have a look, guys. It's on our website.
So I'll quickly run you through the play-by-play. In the 59th minute, Politano gave in a lovely cross to Osimhen, who scored with a looping header, his first goal since his return from his injury. In the 94th minute, Tyrone Ebuehi got a red card. And then the 99th minute, Petagna scored after putting Mertens through. Mertens shot on goal. The keeper saved it. It fell back to Petagna and he scored. This was the latest goal in Serie A history in the 99th minute.
Jesus.
So, talking points. Koulibaly, man, is coming back as a champion. Of course, he won AFCON with Senegal.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to be gassed to win the league now?
Yes. He's got a champion. Well, he already has a champion's mentality as is, but God knows the confidence he has after winning the African Cup of Nations and lifting it himself, man. Yeah. He'll come back and Napoli will shoot up. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're already shot up as much as they can be, but
they'll be doing
highly
drugs,
improved.
Are you out here saying that Napoli are doing drugs? That's why they're doing so well.
Are you making a claim, bro?
Making claim, yes. Fuck it.
It's crazy, by the way. Koulibaly is such a legend. There's Sadio Mane on that team, and he's the captain. He takes the first penalty in the shootout. He's such an animal. One of the most underrated defenders of our generation, Koulibaly, of course.
I agree, man.
And I mean,
agree.
mad respect for him deciding, to stay at Napoli after
Of course.
so many rumors year after year. Is he going to go to City? Is he going to go to PSG?
Yeah.
I mean, he could still end up transferring to one of these clubs, but his heart seems set at Napoli.
He considers himself a Napolitan.
He does. And
He loves the city.
and I'm
he
sure
loves
the
fan
people of
base, he loves
Napoli
the
do
club.
as well.
Of course, they love him, man.
So
Do you think he's going to be their next, star man once Insigne leaves?
Koulibaly,
I think he'll be their
he'll
captain. I think
inherit
he'll be
the
their
captain's
captain.
armband for sure.
No, it depends if Mertens stays on. Well,
But Mertens isn't a
it's funny
starter.
because the Curva want Mertens to be their captain, but it could very much be that situation where, like Romagnoli and Calabria, the captain's on the bench, so then the vice captain, would actually be captain because he's starting all the matches. So it could very much be the case. I definitely see Koulibaly being fit for captaincy at Napoli.
Of course, for sure. He's the most likely candidate, in my opinion.
I mean, there is an argument for Mertens as well, and I mean, he's gone on the record saying things like he'd love to stay at the club, regardless of the pay. And he's working hard to try and, get that confidence in him for him to be able to sign a contract extension. So
It was Spalletti who said that he's gonna have to accept the demands that the club presents to Mertens, because in reality, he's gonna get a pay deduction for sure.
Of course, man, 100%. He's not the player he used to be.
No, and there's
I
Osimhen
think
now.
that's-
There's Osimhen and Petagna who are alright. Petagna's alright. Osimhen's amazing. So Mertens isn't really a necessity in this team right now.
Bro, oh my god! I just says we forgot to plug in the prediction series. You beat me.
Yes.
Because I'm just remembering how you got the exact score. We're terrible, man. How you got the correct score on this game, and it was the latest fucking goal in Serie A history. Like it took a 99th minute Petagna goal. For
did
you
you
to
say
beat me.
2-0? Yeah, I think mine was
I
like
did.
3-0 or something like that. I thought that
Mine was 3-0 as well, bro.
Can we just say that this week we were all wrong for the majority of the
were.
games?
Of
I was
course, there were
spot
so
on for
many
2
upsets.
and completely wrong for the rest, pretty much.
Yeah, so you
There
got
were
those
so
6
many
points.
upsets.
But I
I
got
mean-
Milan Inter 2-1, spot on.
Yeah.
I was the only one.
And
course,
like
I
as a
did.
side note, if you want to just tell everyone what you were telling me on chat, when you asked me to send my predictions, and you said, really, you think Inter are going to win 2-1, and then you sent me yours with Milan 2-1, and you said, I was going to say 2-2, but I want to believe.
Exactly.
And you manifested this win.
Of course, man.
Of course.
I was just
still feel like
convinced myself that we won. And there's nothing I think or do can change the fact that we won, and we fucking
You were
won.
so
Exactly.
positive. It was pissing me off because I kind of like getting into this space saying, Milan are going to lose, Milan are going to lose. And then, like, I did this for the Juve game last year where Milan won 3-0. I did for the Atalanta game where Milan won 2-0 and they got Champions League. And so that's kind of my tactic. If I want Milan to win, I'm just going to say, we're gonna get fucking smashed, man, in this game. Like, and then you're there overly positive,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to punch you in the face.
But then at the same time, whatever Jake did or whatever Jake was, believing in seems to have just like seeped into Giroud's balls. And
Fucking,
just, like,
fucking right, dude. I'm happy to have influenced Giroud and his glorious testicles. Now, back to the topic, Venezia and Napoli. Okay? So, Napoli kind of dominated this game, to be honest with you. They had, I believe, 60% ball possession. Venezia did not play badly, to be honest. It was 1-0, of course, until the 99th minute. And they had a few dangerous moments with Okereke on the counters. There was one in particular that was extremely dangerous. They don't have the facilities to really create much against Napoli, so it's a shame that they couldn't take the chances that they created. But finally, their tough run of fixtures is over. Let me just read you who they had
Thank
to
God.
play most recently. They had Lazio, Milan, Atalanta, Empoli, Inter, and Napoli.
That's
And
fucked up.
the
That
only
should
game
be
that's
illegal, like.
winnable there, the Salernitana game, got postponed. So
Oh
out
my
from those games,
God.
from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, they got 1 point in a draw against Empoli. And they
You could
played
also-
very well against Lazio, Milan, Atalanta, Inter. They played
yeah.
well in these games.
I was going to say you could say it's bad luck as well to that the Salernitana game got postponed because they've since just transformed their team.
Exactly. You're spot on, bro. Like they have to play a
My
new
God,
team. They
it's
have to
true.
deal with Perotti now, man. Uh,
They have to deal with these fucking free kicks, man. I think that's
yes,
the main,
of
Yeah,
course.
main
but
point of concern.
I mean, that being said, do you think out of the teams currently battling against relegation right now, do you think it's fair? Do you think these same teams are going to be the ones that are potentially going to go down?
Hmm.
Do you think
I
Venezia
think
stand a chance?
I think Venezia do stand a chance. I think they do stand a chance. But at the same time, look, I consider Salernitana and Genoa gunners. Like I know that Genoa are kind of upping their performances. They have a few new players as well, but I think the fact that they're only 3 points ahead of Salernitana and Salernitana have a game in hand
Yeah.
speaks volumes. I think Genoa and Salernitana are there for the job. And then, bro, it's between Cagliari, Venezia, Samp, to be honest, and Spezia.
I think Stamp
Now,
are fine now.
Spezia climbed up the table because they had a 3-match winning streak. But you know what I mean? Now they'll probably start losing a couple
Yeah.
here and there again because they were very fortunate in these 3 games. Cagliari are on the way up. And bro, I'm not too sure about Sampdoria. I know they had a terrific win now 4-0 against Sassuolo. Whoop-de-doo. Beautiful. But what they were doing before that, it can't be ignored. And that's in their DNA. And I think they might carry that onto future
But
games. And
it's a new team with a new system and a new coach, man, and new players as well. Now, to be honest with you, I can't see them going down with
just don't.
Gianpaolo.
I don't see them going down, especially like you're saying with the new look team. But I also, it'd be silly of us to just consider them safe because they're Sampdoria, because it's Serie A, it's the bottom five. They're all battling it out. Fucking, you're seeing what Cagliari are doing. You're seeing what
Yeah,
Genoa are doing. Yeah, they could turn things around, man,
for
and
sure.
it could very much happen.
I mean,
Particularly
it's
Cagliari.
ridiculously tight. It's ridiculously tight at the bottom as well. I'm just seeing here that Venezia are 18th, but they have a game in hand. So if they manage to take points off this game, they'll go ahead of Cagliari, and then Cagliari are back down in the relegation.
Exactly. No, it's crazy,
Look, the
man.
thing is,
It's tough to predict.
the annoying thing with Spezia is that they can just play for draws from now on. Because they have enough points to kind of, if they get a few more draws, they'll be safe. Hopefully, it bites them in the ass because I have to say, I want to see Venezia and say I really like their project. Genoa, on the other hand, I think Genoa are due a relegation, man. They need to get their shit together.
Yeah,
They can't
yeah.
just start every year without a team and fucking halfway through they just make these quick fix solutions like this, bring these guys in. It's not
They're
it's
the
not
third
sustainable,
manager
man.
in, you know what I
It's not
mean?
sustainable and it's bad for the league to have them around, quite frankly.
And how good of a manager is Blessing, where he's turning things around, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How good of a manager can he be? How
He's
sustainable is
modern,
that?
no? Gegenpress. But anyway.
Would you have had more faith in them under Shevchenko?
Yes, man, to be honest, yes, is my answer.
Sure, I don't know.
I know
to be
more
honest.
about Shevchenko than I do about Blessing, for sure, so that could be a bit of bias.
Yeah.
But I don't know, personally, if I had a football club and they're in the relegation battle. So I'm going to turn the statement into a question. Would you rather sign a manager, a quick fix that's going to put you up to 16th place, 17th place, and you survive the season, but you're in the exact same situation next season? Or a manager for a longer term project, you might get relegated, but once you go up, you'll be in a much better situation. Which manager would you take? Let's say this is Blessing versus Sheva.
I was going to say that sounds like Ballardini against Sheva.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, obviously the main objective for these teams is survival. From an economic point of view, everything. Survival is more important than the long-term project for these guys, and that's the problem, right? So I guess I would take survival in that situation over the project. Then maybe try to get a good preseason with maybe a progressive manager the next year.
Yeah,
I can't help but disagree with you there, man. I know that very much the worst case scenario in football is getting relegated, but I would take a season of relegation to ensure mid-table football in this area the following season. You know what I mean?
But you're not even guaranteed promotion. It's quite tough to
No,
get
you're not
promoted. You have two
guaranteed
spots
promotion.
guaranteed, then you have the playoffs, which are a bitch.
I very much created a hypothetical world here, and which one would you take? You know what I mean? So
Because I mean
please
they're
don't put
risking
through
as
all the
well.
technicalities.
Like in the case of what happens to many teams who get relegated, or many teams who are around relegation, they just seem to be signing a lot of players on short-term contract. There's for at least some of the teams there isn't generally that much of a long-term project. Like Jake is saying, they're there fighting for survival, and so once they get relegated, it's just they tend to have to lose their whole team. They have to try and rebuild in a lower league with a lower reputation and a lower budget. So everything goes askew. But at the same time,
I get it.
like I would prefer Venezia staying in the league. I understand your point from a league perspective, that I would prefer teams like Venezia staying, because although they're still weak and they're behind a lot of the other teams who've been there for a number of years, they seem to have set some foundations in place and plugged the gaps with some stop gaps. Whereas Genoa seem to be year on year trying to sign whoever
That's true.
is available
Fucking
to try and
Nani.
keep them up.
Yeah. I think we should get back on topic with Venezia and Napoli, this game in particular. There were two things I wanted to mention. One about Osimhen being back. It's great that he found the goal, but he's not looking anywhere as sharp as he was, of course, at the start of the season. Do you think he'll get back to his peak this year? Or do you think he's been through too much this year and he needs another season to start again?
No, I don't think it'll take him until next season to find his full form again. I think it'll take him a couple of match days. Maybe I think in 3 to 4 match days we'll see Osimhen back where he was. I think it's a matter of sports psychology, just getting back into that groove, getting back into that confidence. One thing I always credited Osimhen for was for going into those 50-50s like there's no tomorrow. There's no way that that's not impacting him nowadays. I know Spalletti said it's not impacting him, but it is. The fucker broke his face, you know what I mean?
Skriniar broke his face.
It's a tough... Skriniar broke his face, which is even scarier. So it'll take him some time, maybe 3 to 5 match days, but I think he will find his groove again.
Yeah. What do you think, Grima?
No, I think he's definitely on track to start, putting up the numbers he was putting up before. Maybe again, like Matt's saying, not at the same rate, but I think he's on track to make a comeback.
Yeah, I think had he not had any injuries or the COVID problems or anything, he could have been competing with Immobile and Vlahovic at the top this year.
Oh yes, definitely. Especially with the... I don't think it's only an Osimhen problem. I think it's a Napoli problem. I think the fact that Napoli kind of fell off halfway through the season, they were first by a good amount. They were by a landslide the best team in Italy at the time. So I think the fact that they had those injuries and they had the African Cup of Nations and they slipped off, that impacted Osimhen as well as the team. It impacted his numbers, I would say.
Sure, definitely.
Did he go with Nigeria?
He didn't.
No, because he broke his face.
Yeah, exactly. I thought maybe went up anyway.
But
I mean,
he could have because he recovered in time for it.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He chose not to, or they chose not to.
In fact, there are many angry Nigerians on Twitter. So Petagna had 28 league goals and 2 assists for Spal in 2 seasons. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Since
Yes,
joining Napoli
monster.
in 2020, he's had 7 goals and 3 assists in only 11 starts. He does come off the bench quite often, though. How does Petagna's future look to you? Is this like the highest point of his career? Or do you think there's another step left in him?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Thank you, man.
I think the height of his career would be like at Atalanta when he finally made that big move and he was starting a lot of games
with Papu Gomez.
He was like best fucking friends with Papu Gomez. They look like Laurie and Hardy when they hang out together. I still think there's one big move left for him. I think he will need to make a step down before making another step up rather than making a lateral move at the top. So I think we might see him join I don't know, man, fucking a Fiorentina or someone like that before taking another step up to one of the upper tier teams. But I don't see him starting at any of the top 4, 5, 6, or 7. But I do see him starting for teams like Fiorentina, definitely.
I think it's a matter of the system as well, because he's a very particular player. He's not like a Vlahovic or someone like Immobile. He needs a system in place which is very focused about having either fast and pacey wingers. So like we were saying, I think it's more the system that Petagna will need to pick clearly, because he's not a player like Osimhen or Mertens or Vlahovic or Ciro Immobile. It's a very specific type of player. He's the type of player that you'd want, either with his back to goal, acting as a target man and have some pacey wingers or wingers cutting inside, and he can lay the ball off to them, and hold up the play. Or he's that type of player that you'd want, moving into the box and attracting crosses, which he can head into the box. Which I think none of the top teams at the moment, the teams challenging for Champions League places, are using that type of player right now. There might be an argument that he can act as a backup to Dzeko, but I think Dzeko fulfills a bit of a different role as well in the team.
For sure. He's definitely a niche type of player. I don't see him getting a greater move than this in his career, but strikers of his nature do tend to peak quite late. So we'll see. We'll see.
If you harken back to Luca Toni, he's definitely one we can refer to. He was top scorer. I mean, he was top scorer in his 20s with Fiorentina. Had made the move to Bayern Munich, and then was top scorer again with Hellas Verona. So maybe that might be a move you might want to make. Head over to Hellas. Maybe he'll be what they need to lift them into the European places.
Yeah, they have a vacancy now. Of course.
Yeah.
That's true. Literally.
So Grima, you need to go, right?
Yeah, unfortunately I have to head off. I mean, it was great, and thank you for having me.
How was it? How did you find it?
I found it very fun. It's always fun to speak about football with like-minded people. I think that I fulfilled my role in this this edition of the podcast, where you basically got me on to humiliate me. It's almost like I lost the bet that if Inter lose, I have to come on the podcast and speak about the match without feeling like I want to
Is there anything you'd like to plug? PwC maybe?
No, I mean, if you want, I can plug your other page, because you seem to be running many social media accounts. My unofficial official page.
Exactly. Luke Grima official on Instagram. You can follow it for Luke Grima memes. He's a very loved person at work and in his friends group. And I'm sure by your family as well, that I do not know much about.
And an incredibly talented accountant as well, no?
Exactly. Accountant. Let's not get
an
into
accountant.
that.
Not an accountant, but we can just say I'm an Inter fan, dude.
Okay. Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
I'm just that Inter fan.
Exactly. So thank you very much, Green. We'll definitely have you on again in the near future.
Thanks, dude.
Okay.
Thank you, brother.
Enjoy the rest of the pod.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you, bro. Ciao.
Cheers, man. Ciao. So where do we kick it off now that he's gone?
So, okay. Of course, Venezia, we can just continue from here. It was always going to be a tough ask for them to get something out of this game. I think they put in a respectable performance. They even got close to equalizing on a few occasions, but were unlucky, of course, not to. Hopefully, they have an easier run coming up. I believe they have Torino, Genoa, Verona, Sassuolo, Lazio. Not exactly easy, but certainly easier than the run that they had been on. So let's hope they can pick up a few points over there. Shall we? Yes, the table, of course. I'll just whip that out very quickly. Napoli currently stand in second place with 52 points, on par with Milan, while Venezia are currently in 18th with 18 points.
So the next
just 2 points off of safety. No problem. Go for it.
So the next game we're going to be covering is Atalanta 1, Cagliari 2. So definitely the biggest upset we've had this time around the match day 24. So Atalanta were coming off 2 impressive draws against Inter and Lazio. Now I say impressive draws because they were basically facing the biggest injury crisis they've had in years. They're essentially back in full flow for this match. and they faced relegation battlers Cagliari, who were missing Pedro, Balde, Zappa, Rog, Strutman, Valukovic, Cheter, Altare, and Cavuoti. So the tables really have turned here. They're facing Cagliari, who didn't even have a striker to play this match, and they ended up playing Gaston Pereiro up front. Cagliari were also coming off an impressive 1-1 draw to Fiorentina and had won 3 of their last 4 Serie A games against Atalanta. So, very interesting matchup over here. Normally you'd bet on Atalanta to win, but obviously taking all these things into consideration, who the fuck knows? So, for the play-by-play in the first half, things were seeming pretty good for Atalanta. Obviously, they didn't get that goal that they needed, but they were kind of controlling the game and they were doing bits. Basically, their team was in full flow. But in the 50th minute, Pereiro put the ball past Musso after Atalanta's defence was caught napping when Dalber whipped the ball into the box from distance. That looked like it should have been picked up by Palomino, to be honest, but
yes.
it wasn't. VAR also checked for a handball, but nothing was given, and Pereiro managed to get a goal as the acting striker, basically. 2 minutes later, Pereiro found himself clean through on goal after Jim City failed to control a simple pass from his teammate. Musso rushed out of the box and took the player down, resulting in a free kick and a red card. Personally, I thought Musso got the ball, but
It wasn't
apparently
a handball. It wasn't because he handled the ball outside the area. I believe the shot hit his left arm, no? Outside the area.
Interesting. When there was the replay, I was looking at the keeper's feet. Interesting. And I saw that he got the ball first and then followed through with his legs. But if you're saying it's a handball, that
I think
could
it
very
was a
much be.
handball. It makes more
And
sense.
that's the last man that would naturally result in a red
Exactly.
card. So Pasalic went off and they brought on their substitute keeper Rossi. And a couple of minutes later, so in the 64th minute, Palomino headed in from close range after Zapata's shot was saved by Cranio. That was his first goal of the season and +3 for my Fanta. And 4 minutes later, in the 68th minute, Pereiro backed his second goal of the night after some great work by Bellanova. I can't stop thinking about Bellanova. He's so good. He outpaced Male in incredible fashion. He crossed the ball low and hard exactly to Pereiro, and Pereiro managed to slot the ball in. So
he went off injured, poor guy, Bellanova. He played really well and went off injured, yeah.
He had a fucking good game, man. He's been pivotal for Cagliari, I feel.
He's been really good since returning to Italy, please.
Facts. What went wrong for Atalanta? Because obviously Cagliari had half a squad playing. They didn't even have a single striker. They're facing relegation. And Atalanta were 4th, flying high, getting 2 draws when, they barely had players to field. What happened, man? Is it that they were playing 4 at the back?
It's a weird one, because on paper it's a 4 at the back. But when you watch them, it's not really a 4 at the back, is it? You have Coop Miners or Freuler dropping in deep, the wing backs advancing, and all of a sudden you have a 3 at the back formation again. You have the likes of Pasalic, Pessina, and Malinovsky, who are all quite similar behind Muriel over there. And Muriel, who sometimes doesn't always perform as a starter. He tends to thrive coming on when everyone around him is kind of, tired, and he's fresh and he can beat them with his bursts and acceleration and all that shit.
Exactly.
The main problem I see over here is, first of all, the red card. Of course, that goes without saying. Second of all, the lack of options for Atalanta right now. They brought on Boga, who hasn't had time to adapt yet. They brought on Mahaila, who hasn't had time to adapt yet. And the next sub they made was Mele, So in reality, they don't really have many options off the bench. They brought on Duvan Zapata, and similarly to the whole Gosens situation, he got injured and went off again. Gosens was extremely pissed with Atalanta for mishandling him when he was injured, and actually them forcing him to play aggravated his injury, and that's part of the reason he actually left to go to Winter. The same thing happened with Duvan Zapata. You have to take care of your players. Don't rush them. Don't rush them. I understand that you need a win here, but you don't rush Duvan Zapata back. He's so important to your team.
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think that aside from this, I spoke a bit about having 4 at the back for Atalanta. I think Jim City was fucking horswank in this game, man. I think Jim City was terrible. And I'm not only talking about the ball that he miscontrolled, but he just seemed a step behind the play the entire time. You know what I mean? I feel like He found it difficult to keep up with the momentum that Cagliari were throwing in the second half. What do you think?
I thought he was better in the air than he was on the ground, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
I
Like
get what
every
you
time
mean.
he gets in an aerial duel, he seems to win it, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
But yes, I do think he wasn't fantastic, and they certainly missed Demiral. Um,
Hmm.
did Dalbert play as he started as a striker, right?
Dalbert,
Yeah, Dalbert started as a striker alongside Pereiro this game, I think.
I think Pereiro was the sole striker. Well, he must have played behind Pereiro, just
Yeah.
behind Pereiro.
It's out of position regardless because Lico Jonas was on the left, and that's where Dalbert typically plays. But very interesting to see Mazzarri pulling out a rabbit out of the hat out of nowhere, without Joao
Hey
Pedro
man,
and Gaston Pereiro. What a game! 2 goals, and
yeah, he
he was
plays
the one
so
who got
well.
Musso sent off too. So what a game from
Hmm.
him! I didn't think
No,
he had this in his
the,
locker.
the victory was up to Pereiro. I mean, he had big boots, very big boots to fill in Joao Pedro, big boots to fill in Keita Balde as well. And he did a fantastic job, man. The guy normally plays out wide, so it's no easy task just throwing him in as the main focal point striker. And I think he did a great job of that, man. Obviously, I mean, what more could you like? You'd normally just ask for a single goal, but the guy got 2 goals and he got the keeper sent off as well.
Yeah.
So definitely a man of the match performance for Pereira. I think he was excellent. And I think he's found himself a new role as well. I think he might be plugged in there a bit more often.
Sure, sure. And they have Keita Balde back now as well. So definitely a few interesting options for Cagliari.
Well, they paid 10 million for him back in 2020. So
Pereira?
it was due. So it
Mm,
was due for him to step up.
okay, cool. Where did he come from? Do you know the team he was with before?
I knew this yesterday when I was doing my prep, but I forgot. Let me just look that up really quick. So
Sure, no
Gaston
problem.
Pereiro, we're talking about
Yes, he played a
transfer
really good
market,
game.
obviously. An insane game, man. He was brilliant. So he joined from PSV Eindhoven. He joined from PSV Eindhoven in January of 2020, actually on transfer deadline day, and they signed him for 10 million.
Mm, nice. Okay, a good coup by them. It has
No,
to be said
definitely.
as well that the guy they played at the back, Cagliari, the 19-year-old Robert without the R, Obert, played pretty well, and
Over.
even Lovato played well. And these guys
Lovato
are
had a very good
are
game.
19 and 21 respectively, like pretty good. And Goldeniga as well came in and did a great job.
Things are definitely looking better for Cagliari, and they're out of that relegation zone now. That definitely doesn't mean that they're out of the danger zone, but they're definitely looking better than they were. I think they dominated the second half. I think they were much better at the second half. They did a fantastic job at keeping their shape whilst going forward and staying disciplined at the same time, so they didn't leave space for Atalanta to really counter-attack and catch them off guard. I think their midfield trio of Grassi, Marin, and Deola were really good. They all put in tackles and drove the ball forward well. They drove the ball to the wings really well as well, and then the wings were able to involve Pereiro in the game very quickly. And I think Cagliari just hit the nail on the head in this one, man. It was
They
no
did
easy task playing
spot on
Atalanta, who are in fucking,
in
pretty
Bergamo.
much full flow, man, in Bergamo as well.
Yeah.
And an incredible, incredible win for Cagliari.